Today's episode is brought to you by PTZ Optics. Visibility upgrade. New Wave Toys and their Replicate Amusements products. GG RetroBox. Get 3 to 5 games from your favorite series, consoles, and game genres delivered to your doorstep every month with GG RetroBox, the ultimate retro gaming subscription box for video game enthusiasts. Use code GRS15 at checkout to get 15% off your first box. And
Boom shakalaka! Hey everybody, it's Tim Kitzer here, the voice of some of your favorite video games like NBA Jam and NFL Blitz. And I'm here to talk to you about Old School Gamer Magazine. It's the magazine for retro gaming, and it's exploding. Kaboom! Print issues come out every other month, and if you want to go green, digital options are available. Visit oldschoolgamer.com and subscribe now. That's oldschoolgamer.com. Boom shakalaka! Kaboom!
All right, we made it. We're all here, and let's see, as usual, the audio check. We have Adam joining us. We have Steven. Let's see if we can hear everyone. Voice
Hey,
check.
how's it going? Hey, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Let's see if they can. Adam, can they hear you?
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, let's see what they say in the chat, because it's pretty infamous with my show, Adam, that the audio never works. At least not for the first few seconds, no matter what I do. We're getting sounds good. Holy shnikes. We actually, after 116 episodes or something like that, we finally got the audio to work.
Right.
It took this long.
Practice makes perfect.
I guess so. So first and foremost, welcome everyone to Kicking Old School this Friday. It's a very special episode. We have the developer of R-Cade here, Adam. But Steven, what do we always do first?
We welcome our guests.
Welcome our guests.
So you don't have your glasses on, so you get me to do it.
I don't. Yes, of course.
Some people's kids. Anyways, let's see. We got Video Game Vegas. We got Jason, our AI resident, Rich Orngren. I want to say it right. I'm not great with names either. Triumph or Die, Pliskin's Run, Andy's Game Room, Scott B, Nathan Foster. Let's see who else we got here. Apicus, Hobby Hands, RM McRae 114, Ted Adam Green, Paul Capel. What else we got here? I don't want to repeat there. Stephen M. And then there's me. Of course, I'm here. But Ron W. Vet 1981, A Custom Arcade. Let's see, Paul Barnes, our typical. He's our Norm in the chair in the corner guy. Paul, welcome. Gamer Fridge. That's a unique name right there. Let's see here. 720 Eric, Jeff D. Who else we got here? I don't think I missed anybody other than maybe Steps Gaming. Welcome. Saved by Zero and Chit for Brains. And I think that's it. I don't know if I skipped anybody, but I apologize in advance if I skipped anybody.
So, we'll get you up later on.
TGIF, welcome everybody to another.
What a week.
A week, yeah.
TGIFF, man. It's
how was your week, Adam?
It's been a week. Lots of work during normal work stuff instead of the fun stuff, I'm afraid.
Are you the guy that see? We get a lot of guests, and I try to remember everybody's career or what they do for work. And if I remember, I don't know if it was you. It's a very secret one.
It's very secret? No, it's not super secret.
Oh no, it was the other guy that didn't have his picture on the thing, and he couldn't tell us.
You're thinking of mystery encoder. You're thinking of mystery encoder.
Yeah. Maybe it's him. Yeah, him. I cannot tell you my job, and he'll get incriminated. And I'm like, damn, what kind of guests we got on this thing. So, what do you do for a living, Adam?
I started out as a computer developer, of course. It was all Microsoft for a long, long time. But
you worked at Microsoft headquarters?
No, but I just Microsoft development, all back-end stuff.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I started way back in the day of like VB scripting. So we're talking like 2000. I think the first language I ever programmed was Quick Basic. If that dates.
Oh my God, how old are we? We're saying way back in 2000. My God.
Yeah, way back.
24 years ago.
4 years ago.
My
but
God.
That was like the real actual programming stuff. Like I started with Basic probably in late 99, 98 or something like that. But it was a lot of fun, and eventually I worked my way into management. So I'm still in IT all the way, but now I manage a team of developers. So.
All three of us are in IT. Great.
And that's why I do a similar job. How do you two stay looking so young? I look like I'm 100 years old. How do you guys manage that in IT? I
just shave. That's all I do. I just shave, and it makes me look youthful. But you know what's funny is me and Glenn were friends for a long time. And one day we kind of asked, well, what do you describe your job? And he does the exact same thing as me. Babysit grown-ass techs. We babysit nerds all day. Good people on my team. But I know Glenn has its challenges with his team. But...
Yeah, we had a week. We had a DNS failure in one of our main locations, and it took hospitals out. We couldn't get to any of our applications. It was 5 hours. It was down. So it was pretty rough week.
I'm sorry to hear that. We had a really rough week as well. We had a data migration thing going on at work that just kept going and going. We were trying to take a new feature live, and this data migration ended up delaying a number of things. We had a bunch of records out of sync, so it took us a few days to actually get all of our effort in the production system. And so it just slowed everything down, but we tried to clean up like 1 million records.
Good old IT.
Steven loves records. Although it's a musical records, but you know.
The vinyl kind, right?
I don't like vinyl, not anymore. I kind of got rid of them because they just take up so much space. Not the records themselves. The record player itself takes up a lot of space.
Not like your Miss Pac-Man or Neo Geo MVS take up space.
No, I got my priorities set straight. You know that, right? So it's the arcade machines before the record player. That's for me. That's what it is.
Good segue. Speaking of arcades, we happen to have Adam here from R-Cade. So Adam, tell everyone who's watching a little bit about R-Cade, about what you do, what it's about, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I'll kind of start at the beginning where R-Cade kind of came from and what it was intended for initially. I first started tinkering with Linux when my brother bought me a Raspberry Pi 3 and said, "Here, have fun." You know, he knew I liked computers and stuff, but I had never really done anything with Linux come that time. I got started with RetroPie and kind of learning how that functioned, and I wanted something with a little more horsepower than the Raspberry Pi 3 that I had. That took me over to the newer Rockchip boards, and I wanted to see what I could get running on them. And I went through a number of different iterations, eventually ended up doing some initial porting for Recalbox. And so I got Recalbox running on the Rockchip platform, the very first brand of it to make it happen. Recalbox themselves, the devs over there, they're primarily in France. They didn't accept my merge request, so it doesn't actually have official support. I eventually moved over to the Batacera team and helped port them to a number of the Rockchip stuff, helped directly with Susan to get their software actually running on the Rockchip platform. Once we got there, I had a very difference of opinion. I love the Batacera team. I'm going to put it out there now. They're an amazing group of developers, some of the brightest crew you could find, and they are all over the globe. So they've got so many contributors to how they function. But ultimately, I just had a difference of opinion with how their software should function. And I wanted to kind of do my own thing. I saw an opportunity because there was no piece of software that was specifically suited for optimizing the Rockchip hardware. And for those of you that aren't familiar, Rockchip is a specific brand of CPU. So it's a chipset on the actual single board computers. They make a number of different products that are out there. And I selected a couple that were primarily made by Pine64 to start developing Arcade for. And I partnered with them, and then I started carrying some of their stuff in my Retro Center online store. That kind of where we got started. And then one day, this guy, Jeff, reached out to me. You guys all know Jeff. And he said, hey, we're interested in possibly getting something running on this this Legends ALUs, Legends Ultimate Machines. And I said, well, tell me more about them. Because the software, he didn't know about Arcade at the time. The R in Arcade was intended to represent Rockchip, being it is optimized for Rockchip hardware. And I said, what kind of stuff does that work on? He said, it's Rockchip. I know you've got experience there. I said, yes, absolutely. So that is an amazing team. Me and Jeff and a handful of other devs worked to get Arcade running on the ALU to get that all to function properly. So that's kind of where, like, the backstory, how everything kind of came to be as it is now. And then it started taking off when more and more users started saying, I'm hearing more and more about this Legends Unchained. What is Legends Unchained? So Legends Unchained is the bootloader that allows Arcade to run on these Legends machines. And then started talking to a few other folks pertaining to what they needed. And I started getting awesome feedback, like feature requests. Hey, can you make the software do this? And we kind of want this. Can you make this happen? And I said, you know what? I think I can. So I tweaked and twisted, and now the software is using a mainline backend, the latest revision of that. And it is it's faster than the competition as far as I can tell. And I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to be here. And that's hopefully kind of a quick down and dirty for how it came to be.
I'm very thankful and happy that you're here. But what made you really go into Rockchip chipset? I mean, you like I said, you were with Batacera and everything was good there. But what made you focus on the Rockchip? Again, I'm happy you did personally. But what made you focus? What was your reasoning behind going with the Rockchip?
A number of things. Primarily, I had started to get more involved in the Pine64 community, and their entire platform of the latest chips at the time was all backend were by Rockchip. They had a lot of promise as far as what they could do, from very low-powered machines. I mean, you can get anything to run on an X86. It's not that difficult these days, and there's so many options. The market's flooded with it, but there wasn't some software explicitly optimized for Rockchip. And I said, that's an opportunity. So
I got $1 million question for
you got Steven.
So does the Viper use a Rockchip?
In fact, it does. It does use the Rockchip 3566. Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. So that's why we're all here.
Yes. And we'll be doing some gameplay.
You know what? Some people might just show up. Well, just some people might show up and not really know the conversation or anything about the Rockchip. And they know the Viper's coming and Adam's here, and they're trying to just put it all together. And it's like, okay, so it's using the Rockchip that Adam made things really smoking fast for, right?
Right. And like you said, Adam, the Legends Ultimate series uses a Rockchip. The iiRcade also uses the rock chip, and the Viper does. So for me personally, this is my first forte in an SBC. This is our first SBC we've come out with. We've learned, Adam and Jeff both helped a lot because we thought we knew what we were doing, and to a point we did, but we also really didn't. So in talking with Adam and Jeff over a long period of time, we were originally going with Batacero, and we'll still have the Batacero build. It's an older build now. It's 38, we're up to 40 now. And we were pretty proud of what we did. But when you put it next to R-Cade and what Adam has done here, it's night and day. It's no secret. I've talked to a lot of people about the Batacero build on the Viper. I wasn't particularly happy with it. Not because it didn't play the games. It did. But there were a lot of other features. I mean, there's so much in the R-Cade build. We'll go over some of those features with Adam soon. There's so many built-in features and functionality in there alone that makes it well worth it. But he's also, like I said, he's optimized it, and he'll go over other things he's done. He's gone and done other things that make things work that weren't working before. So all those things will make the Viper that much more valuable. And again, we have a partnership going now with Adam and Jeff. And the Viper line will blossom along with R-Cade. So we're kind of hoping it'll be a good symbiotic relationship. They got the software side, we got the hardware side, but they also have a hardware developer on their side. We got hardware developers on our side. So we think it's a good marriage. That's what I'm hoping. If they could put up with me, that is.
We're excited about it too, Glenn.
Well, you know what? It's a big myth in we'll call it the video game world, that there's a misconception back in the early 80s that awesome hardware didn't sell consoles. Software sold consoles.
That's right.
Games sold consoles.
That's right.
Yeah, you could have the smokingest, fastest machine ever, but if you got no games on it, nobody's going to buy it.
Right.
In the end. Like that's the whole thing. Like if the Viper was just going to put that out there and this partnership with Adam and Jeff wouldn't have happened, it'd just be a board, and that's the end of it.
and that's the big thing. Hey, Stephen, you hit it right in the head. And that was Batacero was okay. It did its thing, but it wasn't like a killer app. And I definitely consider R-Cade our killer app. And not only that, the developer Adam is a good guy as well, and he's very passionate about it as well, about his software. But that's the thing. You need a killer app. You can have, historically, like you said, the more powerful hardware didn't win the race. It was the one that had the better software, the better support, and the better applications. And I think that's where, again, we're starting out with the Viper, and I want to put everything in perspective. When we were designing the Viper, it was back during COVID, when it was impossible to get, or almost impossible to get Raspberry Pis. And of course, what we released during that time frame? The Build-A-Case. So we were releasing something for Raspberry Pis, and you couldn't get Raspberry Pis. So we're like, okay, we got plenty of time. We'll develop this board. And of course, it's like 3 years later, 2 years later, we finally got to the point we could do that. But again, it's night and day. I was having a lot of sleepless nights with just the Batacero build, because we were taking the Batacero, developer build, and we were tweaking it on the Viper. We're not really fluent as like Adam is. So we're like, why are we doing this? We have someone who is an expert, and he's a good guy as well. And we signed a contract with a partnership going. And every time you support the Viper, you also will be supporting R-Cade's future endeavors and vice versa. It's going to be a good symbiotic relationship.
I completely agree. Looking forward to everything that we can possibly do together. And I do want to make sure that I at least say one more time that no one here is bad mouthing Batacero in any way.
No,
they are.
No,
it's an amazing product and an amazing team. It's just it's different, right? And R-Cade is just in this case running faster on the hardware. It has a lot going for it as well. Batacero is very feature rich, very cool too. I just want to make sure that we're very clear that we're not bad mouthing them.
No,
it's just it wasn't the perfect fit for the hardware in this respect.
Exactly right. Like I said, it was fine. We're still going to offer it. We're still going to offer it if people want to use it, because there's nothing wrong with it. But I just think, like you said, it's just more optimized for our side. The Batacero build in X86, like I have an old PC, great on there. I mean, it takes an old PC you're going to throw away. It's a great emulation station machine. On the Raspberry Pi, that's what I run in there as well. But I think for us and what we want to do, that R-Cade, and again, you have a legacy relationship with them, and we don't want to, I hope I'm not coming across bashing it. I just think, like you said, for us and what we're trying to do, we're trying to really focus on our core feature-rich options that we can do, and I think R-Cade is just the better fit.
Well,
Now,
in the
if
end,
we're
you just
talking
want this
R-Cade
stuff to
1-up,
run fast.
I'm going to bash. If we're talking R-Cade 1-up, I'll bash R-Cade 1-up. That's different. I'm going to totally bash
Well,
R-Cade.
I think in the end, with all this stuff, you just want it to run fast. That's it. You just don't want it to lag out, skip frames, and you're trying to enjoy a game, and you want it to run as smoothly as possible. And if it's a problem with other platforms, and it's not to bash other platforms, but if it's a problem, you got to switch gears and find something that doesn't hiccup and that gives it that proper smooth experience. That's the thing with emulation. You're not running real hardware. It's all translating in software. So if you can have that running great, hey, that's what you want in the end. That's the goal, you know.
And so putting it out there now, if anybody has, problems, questions, feature requests, hop on our Discord. It's on the Retro Center website, Retro-Center. And when you hop on the Discord, you can ping me in any of those channels, and I will respond usually within.
He don't sleep.
4 hours.
He doesn't sleep.
No, I don't sleep. I'm actually quite sleep deprived this week.
Now, you said you have another full-time job, too, so you're doing this and the full-time job. Wow.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely a passion project.
Side gig.
This is not something
which, again,
that pays the bills.
The perfect match, because everything I do is a passion project. So that was another perfect thing. But I want to start off with something here, and I want Adam, you to continue along the lines. So one of the things that R-Cade does is they do built in a lot of core features that normally wouldn't be built in. So like bit pixel and bit LCD support. You just flick a switch, you connect it over USB, it just works. If you have the GRS TOS gate switchers and you have games in there, just click a switch, it just works. He set up the GRS Star Wars flight yoke. Plug it in, it'll just work. Trackballs and spinners, the Sinden Target Pro or Sinden Light Gun, you just plug it in, it works. So I guess continue along. I'm just scratching the surface, but this is your baby. You could give it more than I can say about it.
You hit a lot of the big ones we've done, especially recently. The idea was to make everything as plug and play as we could, as things pop up and have questions. One of the newest additions that's coming in this latest, the next release, is something called LED Spicer. And what that does, again, plug and play, it will come with a default set of configuration that when you plug that in, you can make all sorts of buttons on your arcades light up if you have the hardware that's compatible with it. So you can make it so when you start a game, the coin button flashes, for example, and alerting players, hey, by the way, you got to hit this button to start the game. Mm-hmm. So however you want those animations to look, you can do some pretty cool stuff with those. And I know there's a lot of compatible hardware in custom arcade as well, and plug and play stuff.
That's really cool. And again, that's the thing here, because again, what Steven said before, it's not always about the most powerful. It's about the feature rich and the applications. And there's so many options. A click of a switch in R-Cade, it's like right there. You want a specific game to boot up, like all my Build-A-Cades are booting into their games. You just tell it to boot to that game. No, you don't have to go into any code. You have to write a text file out. None of that stuff. You just pick it, and it goes. Now, you want to go into, I'll let you explain it better than me, but when you get the Viper with R-Cade, there's a license agreement, and why don't you explain why that is and why they need to accept it?
Yes. So one of the nice things about, I'm going to back up to a different thing for RetroPie, is that when you ship a unit with RetroPie on it, it doesn't come with any emulators. It has to actually compile everything from source. That can take a long time. It can be tedious. You can have compile problems. You can have environment problems. There's a lot of unknowns. The nice thing about R-Cade is it is an entire operating system that is just ready to go. You don't have to wait for compiling in any respect. However, in order for it to actually be okay for sales, to be included on this hardware, it can't include games. And from a licensing perspective, it shouldn't even include the emulators that run those games. So when you receive the hardware, it will have R-Cade on it, but R-Cade will not be fully functional until you have accepted the license agreement and performed one upgrade. That's all it takes. And the upgrade will run usually with a fairly good internet, 5 minutes. Usually, it's not bad. And once that's done, one single update, you'll have full feature access to everything. If you don't perform the update, you can still use the media center capabilities of R-Cade out of the box without performing an update. So you can hop over to Kodi. You can stream media, music, videos, YouTube, anything you want to. In fact, R-Cade includes 2 custom Kodi add-ons that I wrote myself for karaoke and YouTube that you don't have to install anything. You just go into them and turn them on.
Cool.
And
I got a question.
Go ahead, Stephen. Go ahead. Go. No, please.
Well,
no, go.
I got, I'm coming at this like I'm not part of the conversations you guys have, right? Viper, blah blah blah. But I have a question. So, this is a question for both of you, and I'm asking this, I guess, as a person from that doesn't know. So, what is the platform, the ceiling of either R-Cade and the Viper? What is the newest console, whatever, that could be emulated on the hardware and the software optimized, etc.? So what's the limit? What's the platform limit, so to speak?
Absolutely. So Glen's Viper has pretty cool. It's got a fair amount of power. The 3566, which is the current release for the Viper. I know we've talked about a potential future upgrade, and that's a conversation that I'm sure that Glen can touch on. But in its current state, the 3566 can actually do quite a bit. In fact, with R-Cade, I can play God of War on PSP in 4K at full speed.
Which is full speed, what, 60 frames a second?
Yeah.
Or
60 frames per second on that is considered that.
Wow. 4K 60 frames from a PSP. So that's the ceiling. That's the rooftop, so to speak. Or
yeah, it is. It's important to probably call out because there were a number of systems in between, let's say Nintendo 64 and PSP, and they're not
GameCube, that sort of thing.
So GameCube and Wii and all that it's capable of it, but they're not currently in R-Cade. Now we have opportunity to potentially add those in future releases. We've got other cores, other systems, and some of them are going to be more complicated to add than others. But we are looking forward to adding as many more as we can. Right now, I personally play a ton of PlayStation and Nintendo 64 and
so PS1
portable. And yeah, PS1 is fully supported as well in full speed.
PS2?
PS2 might run, but it's not included right now on R-Cade. I don't think it would run well. Probably just a couple of games. But right now, that emulator is not included in R-Cade. It might be something we look into the future, of course.
Yeah. I'm just curious because I'm sure the people, like I just saw Michael B. He just wrote PSP emulation, really?
Yeah.
And at least it's the question I think a lot of, like, let's face it, Atari 2600 is going to run like stupid fast and, all that stuff.
I hope so.
And then as we go up the ladder of evolution of gaming consoles I start noticing around the Dreamcast, it starts to fall apart a little bit, unless you're running stupid hardware. But I'm talking about single board computer-ish realm, we'll call it, and it's Dreamcast and lower-ish, I guess.
It does do Dreamcast. It does Dreamcast pretty well, actually. There will always be a couple of games that are just too demanding. I mean, we are talking about a single board computer.
Air Force Delta on the Dreamcast, I play all the time, and I love it. I love Air Force Delta.
Crazy Taxi. It's got to have Crazy Taxi.
It does, and that plays well. Yep. So it does. All I can come up with is DOA because that's what I've got the game saved as.
Oh, Soul Calibur, probably.
Yes. So they
love Soul Calibur. It plays well. It plays well, really.
It does. It does. I honestly, I spend a lot of my time playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City on the PSP.
Oh, that's cool. That runs really well on a real PSP, and I'm surprised that the programmers were able to squeeze that on there.
Yep.
But that's the thing. A lot of people, we'll do Super Nintendo, blah blah blah. But when you start getting into current stuff or more current stuff, it may be, not Xbox Series S or anything, but just to see what that ceiling is on the partnership between the software and the hardware is just what it is.
Remember that the Viper was always designed to be a low-cost emulation platform, but its child, the Viper Venom, that'll be the beast machine, and that we're working with Adam and Jeff on that, and more come out in the future on that one. But the Viper itself is very capable. But if you do want to have the machine that's got balls to ass horsepower, you don't care about power constraints or anything like that, that'll be the Viper Venom, and that'll be available as soon as everything's finalized. We're still in development at this point, but it is coming. So
that's good that we got that ceiling out there.
Well, anytime you release your current hardware, you always have to have that next generation planned out. That's how it works, and we're doing that. This is not a one-trick pony. GRS Arcade and the Viper line, it's going on until I hit the casket, and then hopefully someone will take the reins at that point.
That's really cool. So okay, so PSP, that's not bad. And then with the what is it, Venom? You said that'll
Viper
have
Venom is the next one, which will be a much more powerful one, but it's also going to be more expensive. They got to put it all in perspective.
So let's not. We won't hold Adam to any claims, anything here. But what do you figure built on the specs of the chip of the Venom? Let's say, what do you gamble comfortably, conservatively that it'd be able to emulate?
So I will say that I don't think Glenn has locked in on exactly what platform or chipset to use for the Venom yet, but because it's still very early in conversation, I think he's kicking around the 3588. And I will say that the 3588 has enough power behind it to probably do even Nintendo Switch. Unfortunately,
wow,
Nintendo has made that basically illegal to do.
Yeah. For
But,
sure, but
from a capability perspective, it is just a beast. I mean, it'll run so much stuff so well.
I got some friends in dark alleyways. We'll be talking to them when the time comes. No, that's pretty impressive though. A Switch, if you're not doing the Switch or whatever, but if you're in that realm of possibility, even if you're a few generations of machines backwards, that's still pretty good. Like you're looking at what the Wii U and 3DS, that kind of thing.
So 3DS is currently included, but it doesn't run super fast. You might find a couple of games that it runs pretty well on. It's limited currently by the emulator itself. From a technical perspective, it doesn't utilize the hardware rendering very well. It uses primarily software, so it's limited by the CPU. So the nice thing about the Viper is it does have a very powerful GPU, so graphics processing unit in it. The CPU, it really isn't actually all that impressive. It's the included and baked in graphics piece that helps.
Basically my favorite system. It's a TurboGrafx 16 of its chipset. The CPU is okay, but the GPU is really where it's at. And I want to make one other point. Even when the Venom or the predecessors come out, the original Viper is not going anywhere. We'll always have different platforms that are based on your needs. Power constraints, good emulation platform, high power, whatever. So the whole goal is having multiple platforms based on what you need. Because again, the Viper and R-Cade are both designed for the retro gamers. For you guys in this show and people watching the video later down the road, the whole point of the passion with Adam and myself is to make sure you guys have the best experience possible without busting your bank and your wife murdering you for, spending all this money on this stuff. We want you to have the best experience. And again, if you want to tinker, R-Cade has options galore. You can tinker all you want. If you're not a tinkerer and you just want to play games, you can do that too. Just plug it in. Let's maybe show them a little bit more, Adam, of what we're actually talking about versus just talk about it, right? So Let me get this off the screen here. We'll say bye to the little GRS Build-A-Cades. Bye, guys. And here is basically R-Cade. So Adam, I'm going to let you talk, and maybe I'll just drive the pilot seat here for a second.
Sure. Yep. No problem whatsoever. So probably as he goes through the carousel here, you're going to find a number of systems. Now, currently by default, it's only going to show the number of systems that he has games installed for. It does come with a handful of systems already enabled, and I know that the Viper itself actually includes a game for MAME. It's Robbie Roto, I believe.
Correct.
Is that correct? Yep. Okay.
Yes.
And then you can add a number of different ways into this system. One of the easiest ways to add is over the network share. When you connect this thing, whether it's Wi-Fi or plugged in, you can just copy games directly over the network to the build and be done. Now, you have this awesome option that Glenn is just kind of skating past here called Game Downloader. If you don't want to have to scour the internet for ROMs and upload them to the machine yourself using the network, you can go to the Game Downloader in R-Cade. And when you do, you select a system of the supported systems that are installed on R-Cade. I'll openly admit that not every system on that list has games available yet. There are obviously tons of legal notices here, and I want to make sure that I remind everybody that anytime, whether you download a game off the internet or whether or not you use the game downloader in Arcade, legally, you should only be downloading a game that you actually own. If you have a Super Nintendo cartridge locked away in your basement collecting dust, even if it's flood damaged, if you own it, you can legally download it. So just putting that out there. So once you read this and you say, yes, I'm okay with that, I own the game, I'm only going to download the games I want to own. It goes out and it finds specific games that have been approved for this system and we know function. And then when you go through this list, you can select which ones you want to download. And Glenn, I don't even know if you know this, if you hit select on any of these games, instead of up and down, hit the select button for me.
I'm trying to. Let's see here. The select all at the bottom or select button on my controller?
The select button on your controller. It will give you a summary of the game you've highlighted.
I didn't know that.
So, helpful tip, when you're browsing the user interface, at the bottom of the screen, you have the help menu. That help menu tells you what buttons are helpful and like what buttons do what on this screen. It tells you right now that you can see up and down is scrolling, and then you can go back. On this, you'll see where it says select. If you hit the select button, that's where it gives you the details on these screens. So if you say, I have no idea what this game is, I don't even know if I'm interested. So hit select, it gives you the summary for each game prior to downloading it.
That's actually pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Once you select the games, so if you go back here and just grab a couple, just check one or two boxes, and then go back to your list.
Oops.
And again, this uses the internet, obviously, to download. So this will not be available if you don't have the internet. I should also, let's see, you got 6 connected. Now you have the option here, if you have a USB drive connected, and we didn't quite get to that option yet for Arcade, but if you have a USB drive connected to this, you can plug and play it with games. And how that functions is you would plug in a USB drive or an SD card and go into the settings and you'd prepare it. It will create all the folders that Arcade wants to use automatically for you without deleting anything on the drive. So you could plug in something you have stuff on and not be worried about losing any data. Then when you prepared those folders, when you plug that back in, you can use the game downloader to add games directly to that USB drive or SD card if you'd like. Once you've got the games selected, internal storage is fine, especially if you don't have a USB or an SD card. And go ahead and select download select games. This backend will go and pull from archive.org as its primary source. Archive.org has a DMCA exemption clause that makes it illegal for it to store these games and warehouse these games for historical purposes, which makes it a great source of us to be able to use this. And again, only select the games that you own in order to download them. Not only does it download the game, but it also will scrape the data for the game. So if you click on Reload Game List, it's going to take you directly to the game list for the games that you've just downloaded. And if we scroll down to some of the ones you've just downloaded, you'll find they have all the metadata, all the box art, and for some systems, they even include the videos. Not all systems have the videos for them, but some do. So what would happen is if there was a video, when you selected that in a list, you would see the box art for a couple of seconds, and then that would fade away into a video on this screen. And just like that, you've got games. It was that
and
easy.
you can see, and you can see right here, these are on the internal. These games here are on my internal 32 gigabyte storage, but I do have an external SD card connected. That's the external 0. If I click that, obviously I have more games here. So you can put games on the internal Viper storage and take it with you, and or bring an external drive, but it's all available to you there. And then of course you click the game and it'll take you in.
Yep, just going to say Glenn's showing that now you can launch the game pretty easily. It kind of comes up. Everything is auto configured for you. One of the downsides of some of the other operating systems out there are that in order to make the game controls function properly in game, you have to go through a number of configuration steps. You've got to go into settings and change a bunch of stuff. R-Cade does all of that work for you. We have done a lot of work behind the scenes so that whenever you launch a game for any of the systems, it should just work. That's why you'll see a couple of places in R-Cade it's coined all fun, no work. And that really is the goal of what we're trying to do. We want to make it so that you guys just plug and play and enjoy without having to configure anything.
And just so everyone knows that that color bar was because I'm using a wireless HDMI, and when the video goes, it loses sync. The R-Cade doesn't do that. It goes between the two screens easily. You wouldn't see all of that.
So the latest version of R-Cade actually supports loading screens. So you can install your own loading screens for each system if you wanted to, and even for each game. So that when you loaded a game, it can show you a splash screen of whatever game you're loading or whatever system you're on, whatever the user wants. That was something that, again, tinkering, right? It's just a matter of adding pictures and naming them the right way. But R-Cade would find them and load them properly.
My controller just went wackadoo. There we go. Using this Xbox controller here, but it's I think the batteries need to be replaced. But in any case, so you see you have music in here as well. There's actually movies and a small web browser as well.
Yep, the web browser, I will put out there, it's very lightweight. It's not meant for you to play YouTube on. Don't even try it. But it will let you do some Googling. And you will need a mouse and a keyboard for the time being for that. We do have plans to upgrade that web browser in the future. One of the ways that R-Cade has managed to squeeze every ounce of performance out of the hardware is that from a technical perspective, we don't use something called a windowing system. So it's just rendered directly to your screen. It skips any type of software in the middle. Now, some Linux operating systems use a piece of software called Xorg or Wayland or any other type of windowing systems. R-Cade doesn't do any of those. And as a result, performance is optimized because it doesn't have to feed through that extra layer in order to render the screen. Therefore, your web browser is also rendered right to your screen. And it's very fast, but it's very limited in its capabilities. In the future, upgrading that is a priority, something we want to do. But the trick is finding one that still performs pretty well.
You're not there to browse the internet. You're there to play games.
You are. But I want to show something else that we have here. So there's a Netplay lobby we're going to go to in just a moment.
Yeah.
But if I go under like system settings here, very easy to do. You can set up your there's a support menu as well. So if you guys do experience a problem, you can turn on debugging. You can generate a support file, upload that to Discord, and Adam would take a look at it. You can do a factory resets on this if you needed to. But there's a thing that are called accessory settings, which I think is probably the coolest thing built into the system. And you can see right here, the gate restrictor, mine's enabled, and that is for the GRS TOS gate restrictor or similar technology. If anyone else, I'm assuming, is using the same type of technology we're using for the Arduino to switch the gates, may work. But that's just turn it on. You go into Pac-Man, the gates are going to lock to a 4-way joystick. You go into Scramble, it'll go to an 8-way. So it's intelligent. Now on my iiRcade original, I have the bit pixel on there. You see they have bit LCD support and the pixel cage. You want to talk a little bit about that, Adam, about those two and how they work?
Yeah, absolutely. Both of them are built in. You can actually leave them turned on and won't break anything. In fact, most of the time they're just enabled by default. So if you plugged them in, you shouldn't have to come in here to turn them on. They should just work as soon as you plug them in. The gate restrictor has a preset list of games that we know of the right setting for already, but you do have the ability to customize it. So if you had any game selected in your game lists, just going into the settings for that game in R-Cade, you can go in and say, I want this game to be enabled for the gate restriction. And when you do that, it will automatically enable, even if the software doesn't know about the game. You can still control whether it's on. You can add additional games to it. For the bit LCD portion, we actually support some additional downloading of art directly to that. So that way you don't have to worry about adding stuff, configuring stuff. It just kind of does it all for you.
Nice. And there's one other thing I think it's under here. I obviously, I'm using a Bluetooth controller here. So if I go back here, I'm using a Bluetooth controller. I was never able to get a Bluetooth controller to work on my Raspberry Pi with what do you call it? RetroPie, I guess.
RetroPie, yeah.
Yeah, I never could get it to work ever. This thing worked. Did you write a custom driver for this? I mean, I don't know why I never got it to work, but it worked here, no problem.
Yeah, the Bluetooth itself is obviously about the software for it. Everything on R-Cade has been patched in one way or the other. Anytime I found a problem with something that doesn't work properly, I patched it. The actual pairing be from R-Cade to the device itself, that is some software that I wrote specifically for this. It's written
Works
in
very well
in a scripting language called Expect, but it works very well after figuring out the right pattern.
Well, it does work. So you can compare it. You can see it's an Xbox wireless controller. You can connect controllers and pick which controllers are being used for what player. But the other cool thing is right down here. This, I think, is a big deal. Light guns, trackballs, mice, and spinners. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Absolutely. So if we go into the menu next, you can also identify what's been plugged in and assign each of them to individual users as well. So if you have a cabinet or just 4 different light guns, 4 different spinners, whatever, all plugged in, you can specify what device is assigned to what user. And then when you launch the games, it will take the inputs from those devices and your individual game pads and feed them directly to those players. So you shouldn't have to configure them at all ever after this one time, just assigning them to those players. If you don't assign them, it'll just pick whichever one it finds first and assign it to player 1. Whatever one it finds second, it'll assign that to player 2. So you don't really need to technically set this up if you don't want to, but it does allow for the additional advanced configuration to meet any needs that you need there. When under the advanced input options, you have a number of pieces here. So R-Cade supports infrared remotes. The Viper doesn't have one, but other pieces of hardware that we support do, such as the Pine Quartz 64 and the Pine Rock 64, just to name a few. You can also use an external USB IR receiver if you wanted to do that route. These are mappings out of the box. And right now, defaults to the Pine 64 controller. I actually have one somewhere here I could grab. It's a cute little thing. It comes with my rock boxes. But other controllers, they all send very unique signatures for the infrared stuff. So R-Cade includes a ton of default mappings. So you should be able to select like whatever controller you have.
Now, would that mostly be used for the media player, or would that be used for gameplay?
Technically, it will do both, but it would be very challenging to play games with. But you could. I have used
Dragon's Lair
to verify it functions. The OK button on my Rockbox remote lets me play Flappy Bird really well. Just flat, tap, 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 and then the power button exits. So, but you can also navigate the interface for R-Cade as well as use it for the media playback in R-Cade using infrared stuff. So
one cool feature I saw that you added recently was this one right here.
Yes, test device mapping. So if you have a controller connected and you're like, this button's not working right, or if you have an arcade cabinet and you're saying it doesn't feel like it's mapped properly, if you go into this, any buttons you hit on the screen, it will tell you exactly what they're mapped to, the codes that are assigned to them, what they're named, and you can change all the different buttons here. So if they're mapped incorrectly, just remap them. When you change the mapping for these buttons in one place in R-Cade, that change will find its way into the rest of every game you launch. You don't have to configure it per game. You don't have to configure it per system. The button mappings are universal. You configure them one time in the menu. They will automatically be used anytime you run a game.
That was huge for me because I do a lot of custom cabinet stuff like that, and you never know. Like I said, why is this button not working and something like that. Or if you're just setting up an emulator and you want to make sure you're using the right button. That was cool. And you added that recently. I think, was it version 201? I think maybe you added that.
Yes. And for the users that aren't on the Viper or the ALU, they haven't received version 2 yet. I haven't pushed that update. Still finalizing a couple of things. You guys got first dibs to it. So, but version 2 and 2 Plus is coming for the rest of the released hardware that's supported. And we're adding a ton more additional boards to it too. Before you exit out of the advanced input settings, let me speak to one additional config.
Let me go back.
Quick.
There we go.
There is manage controller profiles. So you might have a situation where you have a controller that you want to use. I'll give you two examples. You want a different mapping for a specific game, just as an example. You can create multiple profiles, so different mappings for one controller. And then when you want to use the other mapping, you don't have to go back and remap it every time. Save that alternate mapping under a different name. And you can come back in here and create it, assign it, and then it'll get used when you launch that game.
That's very cool.
In a future version, you'll also be able to specify what profile for the mapping you want to use specific to a game so that you don't have to change it back and forth. That feature is not there yet, but it is coming.
Nice.
Do you have one default one for most of your games, and then after that it's like, oh, okay, for this game, load this profile when you load the ROM and everything else?
Yes. There's default mappings for hundreds of controllers right out of the box. And if it doesn't have one in there, it also includes a default controllers database that was available. It's like, I think, a few thousand, like 50,000, I think, ish, off the top of my head. And it will try to fall back to that and match up your controller's ID number if it doesn't have any idea what you've just plugged into it. But it usually figures it out pretty well. Some of the clone controllers can really be a challenge. So, like, this is a clone controller I have here. It's actually one of my most reliable Bluetooth controllers. I haven't charged it in 3 years, and it still works. I don't understand why it still works. I only use it for testing, but the battery drain on it is zero. It's incredible.
It's funny you say that. My batteries are. I had to charge them today before I started. Like, oh, the battery's dead.
Yeah, exactly. This one is the other hand. This one absolutely drains the battery all the time. And R-Cade includes I think it's 3 different DS3 or PlayStation 3 drivers for finding which one works best, because there are so many clone controllers for PlayStation 3. Finding one that works best is hard. Now, I did a ton of customizing add-ons, so out of the box, hopefully they just work. But if they don't, then try changing the driver that they're using, and you'll find additional benefit there.
Now, before we get into people's questions, it's time I think we show them, I think, the coolest feature, which is, he's not in my house, but want to play a game together?
I think we could work that out. Yeah. So how far away from me are you? What state are you in?
Well, I'm in New York. I'm near Poughkeepsie, New York. And you are where?
I am in Western Michigan.
Okay, so we're more than a few minutes apart.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're going to play a game together. And not only that, there's no external server. There's no worry about someone shutting down a server and you can't use this feature in the future. This is a feature built in. And also, before we even go to that, you have Moonlight built in, which is a way to stream Steam, if I'm not mistaken, or stream from your PC, correct?
Correct. Now, it was originally designed to be compatible only with computers that had NVIDIA GPUs, which frankly almost everything is now anyways. But the latest version of this NVIDIA software for a PC stopped working properly. So you will have to install something called Sunshine on your computer. The benefit is with Sunshine, you can cast anything to R-Cade. It doesn't need to be Steam. I've cast my web browser to R-Cade, and I can technically use my wireless controller here, and I can browse the web using the web browser on my computer, but I'm controlling it using R-Cade. Steam is absolutely the most common use of Moonlight, though, and you can play Steam games with your controller on R-Cade through Moonlight.
Nice.
But Steam itself would not be running on R-Cade. It's really just screencasting from your PC.
Right, but that's still a very, very, very cool and useful feature.
Yes.
But it's like Steam Link, really, in the end, right?
Yeah, it's very similar.
But for now, I want you to walk me through, and everyone else, how we can play a game together. That you're in Michigan, I'm in New York. No outside servers, nothing for someone to shut off and say you can't use it anymore. As long as at least two of you, it supports more than 2 people, right? We've got like 4 people for Turtles. Would that work?
4 people for Turtles?
Yeah. Like or an NBA hang time. Can it support more than 2 people remote?
It can. I will say that the network play is limited by how advanced the emulator is. So R-Cade and N64 and PlayStation 1, they're just too advanced to support it because there's too much information for a game to transfer over the internet for sharing that right now. Now that might change in the future. We're still looking for some additional advancements there, but for the time being, we should stick with the classics. So Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and pretty much anything even before that, Atari, you can absolutely do those. Now, if there's a 4-player game on any of those consoles, it'll absolutely support that. That's not a problem whatsoever.
Okay, let's go. Let's go through it right now. Go back up here. What are we going to do?
Start
you
the
tell
server. I'm going to show you how to start the server, and then I'm going to have you close it, and then I'm going to go and start it on my side so that you can join it. Because in order for it to join it, if you have any kind of firewall or router in the way, you just have to say any traffic coming in to my computer, I want to allow through this specific port. So let's go over to Super Nintendo. And under here, we should have a game, any game for this example. But Super Off-Road is a good one because that's the one that I'm going to use too. So before you launch it, too late. That's okay. Go ahead and launch it up.
My Italian fingers are too fast.
They're on autopilot. Yes, I'm ready to play. He's just chomping at the bit. He's ready to start playing this game.
I am. I'm excited. It's an exciting feature. We tested it before. It works super, super well. We were playing. Oh God, what did we play that time? It was Chippendale.
Yeah, Chippendale. That was the one that we initially played with to make sure.
Yep, and you kicked my ass in it because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna get back out of here.
Another reminder that the rainbow screen you're seeing in between seasons here, that's just Glenn's
capture card. Yeah, that's my capture.
R-Cade is showing you a beautiful loading screen in the interim.
Yes.
So instead of loading the game, hit the select button to bring up the menu for the game. That was start, not select. There you go. Now we're in the options screen. So under here, we have a couple of options. We can change settings for the entire system being Super Nintendo. We can change settings for the game. But the one we're interested right now is start and join Netplay game.
Oh, I went right past it.
So if you're going to start this yourself and you want a buddy to join, this is where you would go. And you should not have to change anything here, but you certainly can. You can change the nickname that you want to go by. You can enter in an IP address if you want to do like a local network game, or if you know the IP address of the buddy you're joining, you can key that in here too. And if you want to make sure your game is listed in the public server and available for everyone to join, or someone on the internet that doesn't know what your IP address is, leave that on for public. Otherwise, you can turn it off. It won't broadcast it.
But this is important, right?
The port you'll make note of. You don't have to change it, but that is the port that you want to allow through your firewall. For anyone that's setting this up, it's very easy. You open up your router, whether it's from your network provider, log on to that. There should be a button somewhere that says either firewall or port forwarding. That is the number that you will enter in. It is the only port you need, and you should allow that port through, and it'll ask where do you want to forward it to, and that's when you'll enter the IP address of R-Cade. So those are the only two numbers you need, and you'll enter that port and the IP, and you're done. At that point, you can start hosting your own games. Now, I've done that on my side, but we're going to show you what would happen here. Glenn would go to that screen, and at the bottom, he'd say, start host. And that literally means that you are now starting that game, and you're waiting for people to join you.
Right. The server is you. You are the server. There's no cloud server to shut down. You become the server. It's for someone to join.
Exactly. Correct. So in my case, I've already set this up on my router. So let me go and start a game using my controller, and then I'll be right back. It shouldn't take me long. And then we'll show you how to join that game as well. I'll be right back.
We'll play a game. We're going to play some off-road, which, again, I suck at. He picks all the games I am absolutely horrible at.
And don't broadcast the IP to everybody there. So
it's fine. It's fine. Well, friends here.
Sure. So we got 64 people watching. So
yep,
I may have to cut out here.
I know.
So I may have to cut out here. So it's 9 o'clock. So
but we will get the questions
like this, but you guys stick around because this network play stuff is really cool.
Yep.
I've experimented with it before on other platforms. It's really
Steven's experiments. He experiments. You gotta be careful.
Said the word experiment. The mind goes in the gutter. So anyway, yeah. So basically, tell Adam that it was great having him on the show. We'll bid you guys good night. And we'll see you next Friday, I believe. So
All right, that's it. We
and
have a
then
guest next Friday. I think we have some guests coming up. I'll go over that when I check.
yeah. So next
But,
week I'm bringing my son to college or university, actually. So that's
good for you. Good for him.
That's the next week, and bringing him to Ottawa. So I will bid you guys good night and take care.
Thanks, Steven. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Adam.
And
good talking to you.
Good talking.
Real quick. So the Viper right now with R-Cade is currently shipping with the iiRcade switcher board, which is on the boat. It should be here any minute. We're now packing up individual Vipers if people ordered those. So R-Cade OS is now shipping with the Vipers or the R-Cade switcher Viper. So the Viper is coming with R-Cade. We signed the dotted line. We've done the agreements. Everything's been done legally that way. We're all set to go. Just give me 1 second here, Adam, to set this up here. Where did it go? I got to find it. So many different things on the screen, which I have it over here maybe. Let's see. There we go. Even though he's gone, we put his face up there just to commemorate him. All right. So we'll go back to full screen here. And we go back to that. And let's show everyone what we could do here, if I could find. Boom. There we go. All right. What do we need to do?
So hit the start button and go to Netplay lobby.
Right there. Second option down.
Correct. And this is going to reach out to the internet, and it's going to pull down a list of any of the servers that have that public checkbox checked. And you're looking for one in here that has the username R-Cade user with the game of Super Off-Road.
Next page. There I see it. And there it is. So it shows R-Cade user, which is you, the game, which I'm going to totally suck at, and it's public. Now, if it wasn't set to public, what does that mean? They would have to know specifically your IP address to connect, right?
Yep, that means you have to know what IP address you're connecting to. You join it using that other screen.
Okay, so am I going to pitch join right now? You all set?
Yep, should be good to go. Now, I have it running in the other room, and I have my Bluetooth controller
over there.
So I'm going to control the controller while watching you stream it. So this latency should be awesome.
So we may have a good. So we may actually have a good game because I suck at this. So we may actually have a challenge here.
Yes.
Okay, so we got this warning message, which is okay. We can still continue and connect.
Any warning message here is going to pop up. R-Cade just validates that everything is exactly matching. If something doesn't match, it will warn you, but you can still join. It'll make the attempt. So as a result, this supports cross-platform compatibility. You can usually join games that are hosted by like another build, Batacera, RetroPie. You really should, as long as you have the exact same game, it should still allow you to join it. Now, different versions of the emulators, different versions of RetroArch itself, there can be compatibility issues. A lot of the other platforms won't even let you try. But right. I said, in my testing, I found that a lot of times it does work. So rather than stopping you, I chose to warn the user, hey, these don't match. Are you sure you want to join? And you say yes. Most of the time, they'll sync up anyways.
Awesome. And Video Game Vegas put a thing in here. Okay, I know I'm saving questions for later. At least with R-Cade on the R-Cade, it doesn't have the chance of a company like AtGames making unwanted changes on a whim. And that's the thing. We want this to be an open platform that's easy to use for everyone. There's going to be a learning curve, obviously, with anything, but pretty much most of the stuff in R-Cade is a checkbox. You just check it, and that's it. You want to get the games, you can, as long as you're legally entitled, you can put them down that way. But if you want to load them over Wi-Fi, you want to load them on a micro SD card or an SD card or a hard drive, all those will work. We're giving you all the options, and depending on your level of comfort level, you could do any one of them. Adam has been very, I guess, diligent on trying to make this as easy and as powerful for everyone as possible. Am I paraphrasing that fairly good?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, we could talk about features that are included in this for another hour. We didn't touch on any of the streaming capabilities of Kodi and show any of that off. There's just so much going on in the behind the scenes. But if anyone has problems or concerns, we as a community in Discord are extremely responsive. There's about, I think, 1,300 users in there right now. The community is a really positive place. We welcome new users all the time. And people, they'll complain initially. They'll say, hey, I'm so sorry. I've got this dumb question. It's like, there's no such thing. We were all there once, So, I mean, that's just part of having learning a new system. So
I noticed how well he put my question to him as in just a general thing. That was good. All right, so we got the game here. Walk me through. So we got the game here. I have it here. You have it there. How do we start?
So I'm going to hit the start button on my side, which is
you started the server. You're player 1.
So I'm player 1. You're player 2. So hit the select button. So now I'm going to select my initials. Go ahead and hit your select. This is going to be fun Bluetooth-wise. I don't know how well this is going to work. I'm going to try it.
I have a chance of winning. This is good.
I'm watching your screen as I control it. This is wild.
You guys may actually see me win a game. This is historic.
I'm just going to hit start here.
Okay, that works for me.
It'll let me hit start. Do I have to spend all my cash? Oh, no, there it goes. Start next race. Okay. Just for illustrative purposes.
Do I have to hit something on my side? I don't know. Get ready.
There we go. What color am I? Red?
Oh, I have no idea what I am. Am I even controlling anything?
You're apparently blue.
I'm blue. Okay, I'm blue. There we go. This is about how well I drive normally.
Well, I'm going backwards, so you're fine.
So again, we are in completely different states, New York, Michigan, playing this game. It's in front of me. I have no excuse. I just suck. But he's doing it through my stream. But you can see this does work very well. It was easy to set up. And you can play with your friends, whether next door or across the country. And next time, realizing I have the sound off. I want to put some sound on. People can hear what's going on.
Finally got the right latency delay. I got to hit the button, and I've got to count to like 1 before I actually see it on the screen.
Now I'm going to lose the game now because you figured it out.
I spent that whole game driving backwards. So hey,
I need one of these. Do I win one of these girls? I think I want one of these girls. I got to win one.
Absolutely. I don't think I'm allowed to say things like that. My wife did not. So.
Yeah, you're getting in trouble. Right now, I guess I have a pass. I'm free as a bird. Let's try that again. So I don't start it up again. Let's give us another chance.
Okay, we'll give one more shot here. See if I have that timing down.
And now. After this, we'll ask the community if they have any questions for you, and then we'll let you get back to your family for tonight or back to work. Whatever it is you got to do.
I have been, there's family stuff for one, and then once they're in bed tonight, I think I'm going to try to finish all the work I've been doing on Duke Nukem. I'm trying to add that to R-Cade for this next upcoming release. And out of the box, the default Duke Nukem emulator doesn't actually support what I want it to support when it comes to network play. So I'm changing the code, and I'm fixing the broken code to make it so that hopefully it properly lets me join a network game.
And I'm like in last place already, and God, I suck. Next time we got to do 2-player Space Invaders and 2600. Then I got a chance.
Sounds like a plan for me. I'm good with that. I'm just glad I'm going in the right direction this time.
Me too.
Oh man, I spoke too soon. As soon as I said that, I turned around. I'm trying. I'm stuck in a pit. There we go.
Oh, another thing we didn't even touch on is that R-Cade is all online updating. So once you have it installed, accept the agreement, as new features or new versions come available, it's just selecting the upgrade, right? You don't have to redo an SD card and do it all over again. You can just do an upgrade, right?
Correct. It's called over-the-air upgrades. So what you'll do is all you need to do, you'll have an alert that pops up on the screen that says, hey, by the way, a new upgrade is available. And you'll just go into the system settings and say, download the upgrade.
That's cool. I mean, that's basically like a big boy feature, you know, like at games, that R-Cade What-Up company. Once you have it, you accept the license agreement, you got your games on there, it's the way you like it. New version comes out, it's available, it downloads, does it, boom, done. No more reburning an SD card, none of that. And in fact, it asks you before you do it, you want to back up, just in case something goes wrong. You want to back up your stuff and just put a card in, back everything up. Of course, it'll take time, depending on how much stuff you have, obviously. But
well,
that's another...
backup, just to speak to behind the scenes for what that does, that's not actually backing up your games. Your games are all stored separately, so you're expected to back those up separately. The backup it's running is actually your operating system. I mean, it is backing up the core of what R-Cade is, because some of these upgrades are downloading an entirely new root operating system, because it includes updated cores, updated memories, updated everything. And if it tries to replace that, to do that, it's got to delete your old one and put the new one in place. If something goes wrong in that process, it's deleted your old one, it tries to put the new one in, and it fails. You're left without an operating system. It won't turn on, right? So that's where that backup comes on. That's where the backups, the R-Cade says, oh man, the upgrade didn't work. Do you have a backup of that I can go fall back to? And it will go and say, oh, I found one, and it'll recover it. It'll put it back where it was prior to just leaving you at a screen in an unbootable state. Now,
can
there's
you put my
always
face on it when it crashes, like just put my face on there.
Yeah, we can work on that. Absolutely. Yeah, I love this feature request. Get it submitted. If that happens and you do somehow get stuck in a point where you're in a non-boot, that's not a problem. There are absolutely ways to fix everything. And you know, if that happens, join a Discord, have a conversation. The easiest way is to burn R-Cade to an SD card, plug it in, and then we can walk you through how to fix that. It's pretty simple.
Adam has actually taught me a lot on a lot of these different things. There's like 3 different ways he can recover R-Cade. Like I said, an SD card, it can be downloaded. We can burn it to the onboard EMC, can run it from the SD card. There's all different things he can do. Things we didn't even know you could do. And then he realized we actually had a firmware button on the Viper. Once he realized that, he wrote some code saying, okay, that's another way. So there's multiple ways of recovery if maybe during an upgrade your power went out or something just happened that was weird. There's multiple ways. So it's your investment's protected. You will still be able to get back to an operating system where you can work and recover and go on from there.
I will say that, Glenn, that was a great idea for you guys when designing the Viper to put a button on the board as a backup ways to do this. It's the technical term for it is something called a mask ROM. The bottom line is you hear this term, I bricked my machine, or I bricked my console and doesn't turn on, or you got the angry red eye from the Xbox series. With a rock chip computer or a rock chip SBC, you can't brick it. You can't. I mean, you just can't break unless you physically damage the hardware. So I mean, if the Viper doesn't turn on and there is no software that's booting on it, there's a button that's on the physical hardware itself, and you'll hold that button down when you're plugging it in, and that will put it into a mode that will allow you to push software to it from your computer to unbrick it. So there's always a recovery process.
Right. Bare metal recovery. So with that said, I'm opening the questions. If you guys posted questions before, there's been a lot going past. Post a question now, and then we'll go a few minutes with questions, and then we'll end the stream tonight. We're going a little bit late, but I do want, if you have any questions about R-Cade, this is a chance, because Adam was very gracious to give us some time in his busy schedule. And let's see what we got here. If you have any questions coming through here at all, there's probably a ton before, Adam, that we didn't see. Got a suggestion from Video Game Vegas. What do you have here? Have a crash screen play the R-Cade One-Up startup sound with a picture of Kathleen Kennedy. Well, no, that's not a bad idea.
You guys have to submit these ideas online.
Yes.
Me, so I can give you the proper GIF response, because just my face isn't going to do it enough right now.
Well, Scott brings another question. How much space do we need if we plan to download several thousand R-Cade games? Well, again, the Viper does include 32 gigabytes of onboard storage. But remember, the R-Cades will take up some of that space, and you need like a swap space, right? So there's going to be out of 32. How much you think is actually available, Adam, on that 32 gig?
The operating system is going to use approximately 4 gigs total. So you'll still have 28 gigs on the onboard internal machine ready to populate with ROMs. And the direct answer to your question isn't as simple as it sounds, because it depends on the system. Some games are bigger than others. You can easily download 1,000 Atari games in a very, very small file. But if you try to do 1,000 arcade games, that file is going to be very big. So it really depends on the system that you're at.
But the beautiful thing is, just set it to external storage, put a 1 terabyte, a 2 terabyte micro SD card, SD card, hard drive, and there you go. I know Bobby Vu, when we were running Batacera, sent me I think it was a 1.5 terabyte file with all these games on there. So the Viper could definitely do it. It just depends on what you want on it.
Yep, you just plug it in and play. I'll say that I have arcade in every room of my house because we use it for streaming TV too. But I have a USB card with all the games on it, and it floats. I can plug it into one and take it with me and plug it in upstairs. It has all my saved states, all my configs. So it's just like playing the same thing all over the different rooms of the house. And you can use the network share for the same thing.
Right. This is a great question by Stephen M. Will the update also download any BIOS ROM files, if applicable, for any of the emulated systems that require it? That's a great question, Stephen M.
That is a great question. And the answer also is it depends. If they are included in the archive.org repository that's sourced from it, then I can add it to the downloader. Yes, I developed the downloader in such a way where I can add additional downloads for every game. All I've got to do is update my XML file that it's using to source the detail. So if there are BIOS files available in the same repository, then yes, it can be an option. I haven't reviewed all the game lists, so I'm sorry, I don't know for sure if they're currently that way, but it does support it.
And I can tell you that in my testing, I put quite a bit of games. In fact, I think it was a Commodore 64. How many games was in that folder? Do you remember? Like 15,000?
Yes.
It was
the
a
number
lot.
is burned into my brain forever. So Glenn said, this thing is taking forever to turn on. What's going on? And I said, you got to give me some details here. Glenn had 16,000 games, and each of them were in their own folder. So when R-Cade was turning on, it was creating 32,000 objects on boot. And that encouraged me to rewrite the entire game list parser to try to make it as fast as I could. The downside,
huge improvements. Huge improvements.
Yeah,
I think initially it was taking like 15 minutes on the boot because I was dumb to put each game in a folder. But once all was said and done, we got that down to like minutes. It was a big, it was a big difference.
And I will say that 6 or 7 minutes is only for it to actually search for the files. Once it finds the files, R-Cade can reload those game lists very quickly.
Very quickly. Another great question I see coming from a business representative is R-Cade using Linux or Android?
It's a great question. So it's a Linux-based operating system in the background using the Linux mainline kernel. So it's all upstream stuff. Fun fact, in case you don't know, that actually Android is technically a fork of kernel. Google said, you know, we like Linux, so we're just going to take it and make it Android and call it something else. So Android really is, you know, a child of Linux by definition too. The kernels are very similar.
Is it possible to at some point incorporate a level of Android's, you know, games to run on it, or it's still too different to do so?
We have high hopes for that, but it's also a very big ask. It's something we'd like to see happen. Easiest way is to include an Android emulator, but those don't run very quickly right now. It's an option. We're looking at it. We would love to be able to natively find a way for it to kind of jump back and forth and actually execute APKs, the Android files. Currently, it does not.
Okay, fair enough.
It's on the homework.
We'll ask the question, any interest in pinball with this?
We have a lot of interest in pinball. Yes, that's been an ongoing conversation right now. Currently, the only pinball games you'll find are the ones that are supported by the included systems. But I know I think it's VPX, Virtual Pinball, I think.
They came out with a brand new universal build.
I've been talking to a custom arcade quite a bit about it and about how to make that work. And the bottom line is we think we can make it work. The question is, how will it perform? And right now, there's a difference in architecture too. There's 32-bit versus 64-bit. And currently, R-Cade, while its kernel is 64-bit, all the applications are 32 because, frankly, they run faster. But there is an opportunity to allow it to run both at the same time. So the answer is yes, there's interest, but no, it's not currently there. But you can look for it in a future version for sure at some point.
Great. Game Fridge had a question here. Will it work with my Plex server?
That's a great question. So Kodi itself is actually a fork of Xbox Media Center, XBMC, as is Plex. Plex is using in the background source code that was Kodi once upon a time. They just changed it into Plex. As a result, Kodi is included on R-Cade, and it has an add-on for Plex. So you can stream Plex in your Kodi on R-Cade. Yes, absolutely. We can talk more about other streaming options if we have the time. I can stick around and talk a little about that because, again, I use that in every room of the house to stream.
Another, not too much a question, more of a statement, but it is true. Green Sammy 87, the fact the Viper sounds too good to be true, but it is true, and that's the beauty of it. The Viper SBC hardware we're very proud of, but like anything, like Steven said earlier tonight, the hardware is nothing without the software. And what Adam's done here with R-Cade, this is real stuff. I've been using it for a while. It's easily my favorite thing to use right now. I am ecstatic to have them join in partnership with us on this platform. It's real stuff. This is not vaporware. This is real stuff.
We are equally as excited. The partnership was something that we've been talking about for a long time. And then finally it's like, should we? And they asked, and the R-Cade team said, yeah, that's absolutely the strategic partnership we're interested in. So we're excited about it as well.
All right. I don't see any more questions. I'll give another minute, see if any other questions come through. Is there anything else while we're waiting? Adam, you just want to talk about R-Cade or anything in general?
But there's so many different things we could potentially talk about on it. I think the thing I use it frankly for when I'm not gaming is the streaming capabilities. And I want to touch on that real quick. Kodi itself will let you stream Netflix and Amazon. It'll let you stream from your Google Drive. It will let you play YouTube videos, and it's literally got hundreds, if not thousands, of different add-ons that you can select to install and use. I myself have canceled Netflix and canceled Amazon, and I purchased a subscription to something called Real Debris. And with that, I can just stream any TV show and any movie that I want to. I just search for it. It gives me a list of options. I click on it and I play it, and it's all right there. It's $30 for the year instead of like how much is it per month now for each of the other streaming systems. So
it's crazy.
We use that for everything. Plus, it's the included karaoke app that I've written is something that my wife and I use just about every single date night.
Nice. I miss those nights. Now my date night is my schnapps over here, and that's my date night tonight. I haven't seen any other questions come through, so I want to thank everyone for joining. Again, the R-Cade will initially be shown and available to you in the iiRcade KVM switcher, which is on its way. It's on a boat. As soon as it arrives, I expect maybe another week. It should be here in our warehouse. We'll start shipping those out. We are now in the process of packaging the independent Vipers that you can use in your own projects or in your Build-A-Case. A couple of my Build-A-Case. I got to pull the screen over here. Got to pull these things up. There's so many things going on over here, my friend. There, boom. So these guys here, 2 of them are running Pi 3s. The rest are running Vipers, running R-Cade. And a fun fact, and it's all on me because Glenn, it could be as dumb as anyone out there. Since the Build-A-Case uses a vertical screen, Adam had to write a custom kernel. We had to do some work to make R-Cade switch the orientation, and initially we did it through a software command just to see if it worked, and it did. So we came up with, I got another build. Here's the OS. It's on this SD card. Just put it on the SD card, and it's going to work. And I was putting it on. I'm like, Adam, it's not working. The screen's still horizontal. He's like, I don't get it. And I spent 2 days And I'm in IT. I've been in IT since 1989. And one of the first things you realize in IT is, one, when something doesn't work, you reboot it. And number two, if you're using a micro SD card extender, maybe that was the problem. And sure enough, my micro SD card cable was bad. So once I took that out, it worked great. So he knows what he's doing. I have to just use my brain once in a while. But you can see the Castlevania, Verse Castlevania, the Fix-It Felix, and the Popeye are running Vipers with R-Cade in vertical mode. So I know we still have a couple of things still to finalize for the Build-A-Case vertical screen that still has to be worked on. But outside of that, it runs great. There's no problem with performance. The screen looks great. It's just something with our controllers need to be done. But once that's done, we'll offer it there as well. But for normal TV sets, a Viper, you can set anything you want. Put on your regular TV set, it runs great.
Even in the Build-A-Case, you could plug in a USB controller and control it just fine that way. Additionally, with the HDMI output on the back, you could even stream it to your TV using your Build-A-Case.
I'm absolutely right. And that's the thing. I was never able to get Bluetooth working on any of the Raspberry Pis. None of them. A Pi 3, a Pi 2, a Pi 4, a Pi, none. This, it synced within like 30 seconds. It synced and it worked fantastic. Business representative asked, how much is the Viper package? We were going for $39.99, but we're having so many problems with supply chains. It may actually go up to $49.99. I'm hoping not. But between $39 and $49 would be the Viper with R-Cade. Now, we're most likely going to put R-Cade on the internal eMMC. You're going to plug in power, plug in a keyboard or a controller, plug in HDMI to come right up to the screen asking about, accepting the license agreement. But we were going to put Batacera in originally, so you will still get a 32 gigabyte SD card, micro SD card. So you can put some games on that too. You can put some games on the internal 28 gigabyte that's left, plus another 32 on that. We're including all of that in there. But we're only going to be shipping Vipers at this stage of the game internally with R-Cade. If you want Batacera, we'll have it on the website. But once you taste R-Cade, I don't think it'll go with Batacera. I think it's a really, really good operating system on there.
Just like a lot of the other platforms and products that are available, if you want to try another operating system that's compatible with the Viper, just plug it into the SD card. You don't have to change R-Cade. And doing so will not break R-Cade. It's designed to let you try other things. So if you have the Batacera version for the Viper on an SD card, plug it in, turn it on, try it out. And whether you like it or you don't like it, as soon as you pull the SD card out, shut down first, please, and then power back up, then R-Cade will just pick it up right where it left off.
I think what Bill was saying here was a picnic problem in chair, not in computer. So yes, Bill, you're right. There was one other question that was posted here really quick, and I'm going to let you answer this one because I know you can. Business representative, where can we download R-Cade and try it out? That's definitely a question for you.
It's a great question. So if you have the compatible hardware for it right now, then you would go to the GitHub to get it on there. All the releases are available for download directly on the GitHub. Right now, the entry point for everything, go to retro-center.com. And you can read about, who's involved. You can read about what's been available from the store, a little bit of the history, kind of a quick summary of the product. And there are links there directly to not only the Discord server for live chat with me and the community, but also a link that will take you directly to the GitHub download page that then you can grab whatever release is applicable to your hardware.
Excellent. And there's a question here from Aaron Liu. I think it's a no. Will this product work with Raspberry Pi? It's not exclusive to Viper, but the Pi uses a different chipset.
That is correct. Yes, it will not work on the Raspberry Pi. The CPU of a Raspberry Pi is different. So
that's the Broadcom chipset.
Yes, if memory serves. The Viper has, in my opinion anyways, a much better chipset, the Rockchip chipsets. It's faster in most cases. Now there's different CPU details there. We can talk technicalities, but the bottom line is no, it won't run on that because it's not a Rockchip card. The cards that are currently listed as compatible on GitHub are lesser than the available versions that will be coming. That was a big mouthful. Let me try that again. This next release is going to include more boards. That's what I'm trying to say. So when you go to R-Cade to download them, you're going to see a good handful of boards and downloads. There's even more coming. So if your board isn't there yet, wait for version 2.0 to drop.
Nice, and it's a big update, which is good. Video Game Vegas had a question as well. Can you just shut the power on the R-Cade down, or just shut down via software first?
So that is a great question. And the answer is I would always recommend shutting things off safely, but you don't have to. I have to say that I recommend it because it does decrease the opportunity for any corruption that takes place. But if a corruption happens, I'll admit I've never safely shut down my R-Cade unit behind me, and it's running R-Cade all day, every day, and I just power it off. I've never had corruption, but it might happen. Okay, it might. If it does, there are backups in place to account for that. In theory, you should be able to like remotely connect to R-Cade, delete the entire operating system, turn it off and on again, and it should just work. I mean, I tried to make it as user friendly and as idiot proof as possible. So you shouldn't be able to break it easily. It should hopefully take effort to break. And
I put a lot of effort in for sure.
So no, you should be able to. You can probably just unplug it and turn it off if you want to. If you have the hardware that has infrared, which I like personally, like my RockBox and my Rock 64, I don't ever shut it off ever. Instead, I go into suspend. R-Cade supports a low power level system, so it goes right to instant on. So instead of having to do a full power cycle, when I go to suspend, it shuts it off. It's also fully CEC enabled, and what that means is it talks to your TV. So if you have a smart smart TV, or even a relatively newer television, it will talk over the HDMI cable to your TV and turn your TV on when you turn on R-Cade. And then if you suspend the TV, suspend R-Cade or shut it down, it'll turn off your TV as well. So it sends those commands back and forth. When enabled, you can even control the interface of R-Cade with the remote controller for your television.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Game Freeze had another question here. Is there a kind of pronounce right?
Nick. Yeah, he's looking for handhelds. Big name. Yes. And it does support the RG 553 right now, the 3399 backend. And the next release should include the 3353 series, the 3XX series of the handhelds as well, because those all have rock chipsets.
And the question here was, I was definitely the test subject, and I break a lot of things, but it was good because we found out a lot of things, right?
Yeah, no, Glenn, you were a great beta tester. You were, because getting this to work on a brand new piece of hardware is always an ask. Right? So, sure, I can turn it on. Let's find out what happens. And then being a brand new version of R-Cade as well as brand new hardware, there were some kinks to work out. But Glenn was very helpful in finding some bugs that we were able to squash before hitting production.
Well, I'll say you were very, very fast. I mean, even like from when you first got a Viper, and you're like, you ask all these questions. We're like, me and my partner, like, I don't know. We have no idea. He found it out. Adam found it out. Got the build running very quickly. And even the first build you sent me was very usable. It really was. And it was really more just tweaking more than anything. Everything pretty much worked.
Yeah, out of the box, it was really just making sure the hardware was functioning. There were a couple of tweaks, like making sure that the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth were working properly. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure that mask ROM feature for the hardware restore was absolutely an option. So there were some additional tweaks there, plus a couple of bugs along the way. But I think we tried to catch everything. We tried really hard.
We did. So I guess the point I'm trying to say is the current version will be 2.02, at least right now. That's I think it's where we're at, 2.1.202. When you guys get this, it's going to be pretty solid. It's going to be feature-rich. You'll be able to start playing games. You'll be able to do some better off-road gaming that we just played just now, the way we played it. Getting games on the machine. It's very stable. And again, the plug for a Sinden Target Pro or a light gun, you want to play some Duck Hunt? We're going to play not House of the Dead. What was I playing on there? I was playing a bunch of games. I don't even remember anymore. But Sinden works. I know one thing you're still working on, I hope you're still working on, is getting the Ikari Super Stick work. I don't know if you had time to look at that yet. I know the Star Wars yoke you got working, and trackballs and spinners. But I know that's something that's hopefully still on your agenda.
List. Absolutely. It's just a matter of honestly getting it all connected. There's so many different things connected because I have it in the box. I've got to get it all out and I'll connect it all up and plug it all in. And then once I do, it can support it. If you have one that's already all put together and it's running Arcade, then let's have a call and I can just get some files off of you and we'll be good to go. All
right. So with that being said, Jason, my relative AI, is probably doing 2 shows because Super Gamer Dudes is on. I'm sure he's doing that stuff over there and here. And Adam, I want to really, again, thank you not only for the partnership, but for coming on today, talking to the people, giving them an idea about Arcade. And I'm extremely excited about it. I'm very happy with it. I was so worried that this was coming out. I don't like releasing something I'm not fully happy with. And to be honest, I wasn't fully happy with Battlestar. But again, not on their team. We ported it ourselves, and we're not the experts. So we're porting something we weren't experts on. You are an expert, and you, I think, did a phenomenal job with Arcade. I think it's going to be a perfect match with the Viper, and I think people will be ecstatic with it. And I want to thank you so much for not only your time tonight, but all the time you put into the project for the Viper for my product line and the people who are going to be purchasing it.
Glenn, it has been my pleasure. I appreciate you having me. This has been a lot of fun. I love talking about this stuff. It's a passion project, and I am passionate about it. So I'm excited about all of this and excited about next steps. Looking forward to what the community does. I mean, you guys are all welcome to the community. The more people we get in there, the better. We try to take a very positive mentality for support and encourage all of you to send your feature requests. You guys there are other people out there with a different point of view and bigger brains than mine. So if you can come up with something and, hey, I didn't think of, I'm going to tell you, I love that idea and I'm going to get it on my list. I have a big list of stuff to do. I've got about, I think, 100 things in the backlog of stuff I want to add, additional games, additional ports, additional features, and we'll get there.
Adam, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I want to thank each and every one of you in the chat. Jason has right here the link, which is in the chat. If you want to go over to the Discord server, I highly recommend you do. There's a lot of good information over there. First and foremost, I want to, again, tell each and every one of you how much I appreciate you guys. But always take one moment to thank a family, a friend member, tell them you love them. We all know tomorrow's never promised. But in between those times, oh, wait, he's got a super chat. Wait, really, Jason? You did a super chat right around the end of the show? Hold on, what do you do here? $5 super chat from Jason. We appreciate you guys and your products. Special thank you to Adam for the bang-up job explaining Arcade, being open to suggestions. Thank God it's Friday. Jason, I can be interrupted for that. Thank you very much. We both appreciate it. But definitely tell a family and friend member you love them. Tomorrow's never promised, as we all know. But in between those times, get some Arcade, and you too can game on.
Game on.
Game on.
Sit, Blue, sit. Good dog.